Well, welcome everyone. This evening, we're so glad to have you. The topic of tonight is that we are going to be speaking about the REMS test, R-E-M-S. So what I thought I would love to do to start is to get a little bit of an understanding of what the distinction is in people's minds of, we talk a lot about bone density. And why do you think that is? Go ahead. Anybody want to shout out your answer? Go for it.
Well, can you hear me? I'm not sure I'm not unmuted.
Yes.
I was told 2 years ago that I should basically be on some kind of medication, but by a rheumatologist, and I was that was a result of having a bone density test when I had my mammogram. And it improved 1 year later, and I went to see the rheumatologist again. He said, it's not good enough. You have arthritis. Arthritis interferes with the osteoporosis. It makes it look like it's, less urgent than it is, blah, blah, blah. But I'm still like osteoporosis and osteopenia between the two. So I've got a very moderate case. My problem is that I have a lot of dental work done. And my dentist keeps going between, he says, if you can keep him off of this as long as possible, because your teeth are stable now, but I have 2 implants that he's worried that he'll have to remove. And apparently, depending on whatever medication you take, the timing is very important. I keep hearing jaw resections and horrible things. So push comes to shove, here I am a couple of years later. I'm still going to the dentist. I'm still stable. And he keeps saying to me, have they started you on anything? And I said, I would have told you if they had started me on anything. But it's just frightening because the dentist starts talking about, well, I might have to pull this one and I have to know where you do that. I tell everyone I'm on dental implants 201. Forget about 101. They're talking about pulling the implants I have in, and because of the bone loss. So all this is driving me a little crazy. So any kind of information. I tried to set up a meeting during your free sessions period, and I spoke to people and established that I live on the Upper East Side. And they said, oh, well, we're only in, I think, Greenwich or whatever. And
you want to come back in? Did you cheat that cat away?
They weren't close to me.
Oh, let's sit out.
Oh, Maggie, I got you. Here we go.
Yeah. They weren't, they said you should go to the Upper West Side. And they never contacted me. So I still haven't gone for any kind of a session for assessment or anything like that.
Got it. Okay.
But I'd like to start something this fall, if possible, after all is said and done.
Beautiful. Laura, thank you so much, first of all, for sharing so openly with all of us, because we all learn together. And that's really what this is all about, right? We're not just here to come and like push some weights and do all the things. We're here to form a community so that we can all learn from each other. So I appreciate everybody, being so open, and you have actually set us up perfectly for what I really wanted to get into more detail about. So why do I say that? Bone density, when you look at your bones, there's 2 pieces to it. There's the outer structure, which is the cortical bone, is what it's called. And that's the hard part of your bone. So when you think of people telling you about calcium and this and that, that's the mineralized part of your bone, which is calcium phosphate. But the center part of your bone, and if everybody can just go ahead and mute, and sorry, just for a few minutes so I can go through this part of the presentation. The center part of your bone, the middle structure, is called the trabecular bone. That part of the bone, most people don't realize, is actually made of protein, and specifically collagen. And sorry, I'm just getting an echo, so I'm just trying to make sure everybody's good. Okay, oh, we got one more. Okay. So the center part of the bone is called trabecular bone. It's made out of protein collagen. So why do we keep talking about bone density? And I want everybody to focus on that word specifically, because I'm going to make a distinction between bone density and bone strength. When we first started testing bones back in the day, I'm going to call it back in the day, the DEXA was adopted in 1987. And I don't know about you, but I didn't have the same cell phone that I did back in 1987. In fact, I didn't have a cell phone. So I think we can all agree that technology has improved quite a bit since 1987. And at that time, it's, you know, beautifully, it was developed to test to the best of our abilities what is bone strength. And that was the best information that we had at the time. It's unfortunately relatively controversial though, because why? It only gives us information about one part of how we assess bone strength, which is quantitative. So this is talking about the bone density, the mineral quantity of your bone. However, it doesn't tell me anything about the quality of your bone. And this is where we really start to get into a whole new world with REMS. Bone strength depends on several factors, not just bone density, but the quality of your bone. Your bones go through a natural turnover process where it is constantly regenerating the bone tissue. They break down old bone tissue and then a new bone tissue gets rebuilt. One of the things that medications do is that they kind of interfere in that process. And so what ends up happening is some medications will slow down the process of bone breakdown. When I slow down the process of breaking down bone, I end up with older bone tissue in my bones, and that can lead to greater fragility in the bone structure, right? Because now it's a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me. So it's more fragile. So when we look at that, we also are looking at the bone geometry. So the geometry of the bone is kind of like, think of this honeycomb structure that's on the inside of your bone. All of these crossbars and everything else is the things that are actually helping to keep your bone strong. And then what is the composition of your bone? So nutrition is incredibly important, right? So when I put all of these pieces together, what we realize is that if we test only BMD, bone mineral density, then we may have a risk of over-relying on the bone mineral density score. So as Lori so beautifully shared, when a doctor is looking at your bone density score, if they don't have any other piece of information to go by, then they're kind of in a position of saying, okay, we have to make a certain assumption. If you have a higher bone mineral density, we can most of the time assume that your overall bone strength is higher, right? You would think that because now I've got denser bones, so possibly my bones are stronger, and vice versa. If I have less dense bones, my bones are probably weaker. But the problem with that, again, is that the inside of the bone is not being tested and we don't actually know the quality of it. So if, for example, you're on a medication where the bone mineral density is increasing due to the medications, we don't actually know the quality of that bone tissue. It could be old bone that's hanging out longer than it should. So what is the thing that we actually care about at the end of the day? I don't want any of you to have a fracture. At the end of the day, that's what we care the most about. So what determines a fracture? Is it bone density or is it bone strength? Bone strength, right? Because bone density, like I said, could be good, but your bone strength may not be, or vice versa. So, so I want to, yes, okay. So here's where REMS comes into play. REMS stands for Radiofrequency Echographic Multispectrometry. So you can see why we call it REMS. REMS Echolite, Echolite is the name of the company that developed the REMS technology. It is being used in Europe. It was developed in Italy, and it's an actual ultrasound exam. Why is ultrasound important compared to DEXA, which is an X-ray exam? So in a DEXA, you're laying on a flatbed, and then there's a machine that goes over you, and it shoots X-rays, ionized rays, through your bones to determine if there is any, to determine how much of that bone of the X-ray goes through. I'm sorry, I got distracted because I think there's some questions in the chat. So let me just see. Bone density, okay. Risk of fragility, okay. The risk of fragility fractures if osteopenia or osteoporosis. Okay, I'm going to come to these questions in just a moment. So when we do a ultrasound exam, the difference is we are using sound technology, okay? So what Echolite has done is they've created a database of over tens of thousands of people where they have assessed their bone strength quality. So when you send a sound signal and it hits up against a healthy bone tissue versus if it hits up against an unhealthy bone tissue, it's going to come back in a different sound wave. And this is what's being measured against the database so that we can determine what is the actual bone quality of your bones. So I'll pause for just a moment. I see a hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Is it Rosie? Can you unmute yourself? Oh, let me see. I got you. Oh yeah. Can you unmute? You're still muted.
Yes. Now, am I mute? Am I unmuted?
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay. What my question is, you're saying that there's a old bone and a new bone. Is that like teeth? Once one teeth go, another teeth come in. I mean, like if it's like I have dental problems, and I'm very interested in this REM because my bones are. I'm over 65 now. In another couple of weeks, so my bones is starting to affect me, and I don't understand why. I don't know if it's because I lost weight, and like I said, because I had a transplant. So I don't know if it's the bones or the blood. And what is the combination of those two working together?
Got it. So I would definitely recommend going to speak. I know you already have some, medical professionals around you. Those are definitely going to be the best. But here's what I can tell you. Your entire skeletal system rebuilds itself multiple times throughout your lifetime, okay? By the time you turn 30 years old, your skeletal system will have completely broken down and rebuilt itself 7 times, okay? Our skeletal system is sticking around for about 5 to 7 years, maybe a little bit more. So that's really what's happening inside your body. Now, we hit peak bone mass at around 30 years old. From that point onwards, our bone density, our bone quality and everything starts to diminish. It's going to start to go on a downward slope, and a lot of it is also to do with hormones, especially when a woman hits menopause, for example. And all of these things are going to affect the rate of bone turnover and all of these different things, right? So what we are doing in our center is we are looking to create that external stimulation that is going to create the trigger to the brain to say, oh, wait a second, I'm using my bones. I better create more bone strength, more bone density, because I don't want my bones to break. So this is something called Wolff's Law, and I'll get into that a little bit later, just because I don't want to get too sidetracked at the moment, and I'll come back to that. But my point is that we need to create that stimulation. Why? In order to outpace bone loss. That's the key. You're going to naturally go through this decline anyway. Every human does. It's normal. But if we can slow down the rate of bone loss and maybe even increase it, now all of a sudden we've got strong bones going into our 70s, 80s, and 90s and beyond. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit more about REMS, and I'm going to come back and answer some more of the questions. Okay, so what happens in a REMS exam that's different than a DEXA? As some of you may already know, a DEXA is very prone to error. There are variables between machine to machine. If you don't go to the same technician, you might get some variability. If when you are laying on the machine, like let's say you have scoliosis, or even if there's a slight curve in how you're laying there, that can throw off the score. So there's quite a bit of factors that can throw off the sensitivity, or they use a statistical analysis of how many points you're away from the normal. We use a score called T-score. Okay, this is used in a DEXA. This is used in a DEXA. So the T-score says, here's the bone density of a healthy 30-year-old person. We are now going to compare your bone density to that person to see if you have, how many standard deviations you are away from that bone density score. So that's called your T-score. The same thing is going to be measured in the REMS test, okay? But in the DEXA, that's all that's measured. It's only going to give you your T-score. The REMS is going to give you what's called bone quality, okay? So what I'm going to show you real quick is what this looks like. Here. Okay. So I want to show you what a report looks like here. Okay, so this is a little, I'm going to make it bigger. So if you can see here, we're testing the femur, which tends to get a lot of the force, right? When we do any types of exercises, or we're walking, or any of those types of things. Your T-score right here could be showing a T-score of -2.2. Anything from 0 to 1.5 is considered normal. 1.5 to 2.5 is osteopenia. 2.5 and above is osteoporosis. So when we see this, the doctor's looking at it and saying, oh, this looks pretty, you know, high risk, because they're very close to osteoporosis, and we're concerned about what that could mean. But the second page of this is, give me one second, your fragility score. Now, in this case, if you see here, this person, can you see this dot right here that's in the green? This person is showing a fragility score of 16.1. What does that mean? The score is given from 0 to 100. The lower the number, the better. Why? Because it is, the question answering is, how much risk do I have of a fracture over the next 5 years? And this is not a number, this is a percentage. So it's actually 0.16% chance. It's 1.6% chance. It's very, very low. So when we look at this, now we can put these two pieces together, and we can say, okay, what range are you really in? Are we normal osteopenia with maybe some, so see here, my bone quality is normal and my bone density is osteopenia. So I'm really in this, what we call R3. And this table gives us a much clearer understanding. You know, when you're trying to answer the question, Lori, like, do I go on to medications? Do I not go on to medications? That's really what this is helping to answer the question of. And if you look here, R3, risk of hip fracture per 1,000 subjects in 5 years is 4 to 8. That's it. Okay, so the risk is very, very low. And what that means is that we have, sorry, I'm just trying to get at a place that you guys can read it. What that means is that this gives us a much fuller picture of our actual bone strength, and it might lend us to say, you know what, maybe I don't need medications right now. This, you know, we're still doing okay. Okay, so let me pause this and answer some questions. Okay, so the risk of, Ellen, risk of fragility fractures of osteopenia or osteoporosis. I think what you're asking is what is the risk of fracture from osteopenia to osteoporosis? So keep in mind this one thing. Go ahead if you want to
Actually,
clarify.
no, that was just a response. You asked, why are we looking at bone density? And that's why I said why. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for that. Bone density is aging bones. So Tracy, if you could just clarify what you meant by that, but I can just tell you, if you want to share. Yeah.
Y'all cleared it up already.
Okay, perfect. Taking meds for osteoporosis seems to be a slippery slope. Yep. That is, thank you for bringing that up, Maura. That is so true. Unfortunately, once you start some of these medications, it can be really difficult to come off of them. So please keep that in mind as well. I'm not telling any of you not to take medications. I'm just saying, please explore some other options and ask your doctor about other options before you go down that road. Thank you, Lori, for demonstrating that so nicely. With DEXA, they recommend you get repeat tests on the same machine. Is that the case? Absolutely, yes. How consistent, reliable are serial reads? What's the optimal time interval? Okay, so generally speaking, the DEXA is, the reason why they do wait about 1 to 2 years is a few reasons. Number one, there is some X-ray, so you are getting exposed to some radiation. I will be very honest with you, it is very low, so it's generally speaking not, you know, high risk. However, if you combine it with a lot of other things that you might be doing, then maybe it's not something that you want to expose yourself to unnecessarily. Okay, so that's one thing. Number two, the sensitivity of the DEXA is not that great, so it won't pick up a increase in your bone density unless it's a little bit more significant, a little bit more time has passed. So that's why they typically wait 2 years. The REMS test will, I would say you could probably pick it up on DEXA within about 12 months or so if you've had a decent amount of significant increase. On a REMS test, you can pick it up as early as 3 months, but I would recommend 6 months to kind of, you know, not drive yourself crazy in some ways too. But the REMS test is sensitive enough that it'll pick up any increase in bone strength and bone density and fragility risk changes within about 3 to 6 months. Like, yes, I think I mentioned before, but the operator variability does matter. The same machine does matter. In fact, I have heard doctors say they will even understand what kind of operating system is on each of the DEXA machines because they know that there could be as much as a 1 to 2% difference. And when we're talking about something so such a small margin of error, that really matters. Let's see, what's the optimal time? Okay, so I think we covered
May I
that.
ask a question?
Okay, yes.
Zeena, I go for my bone density at and it's a DEXA at the radiologist who does my mammogram. I have it done every year. I didn't used to have the DEXA done every year, but when I got the one bad reading in, or not bad, but the osteopenia, osteoporosis,
They wanted to monitor you.
they wanted me to come in like every year. I didn't used to have it done so much, but I remember the radiologist having problems with the DEXA. He said that my back was far more fragile than my hips, basically. And I do know I have stenosis and things, you know, those issues too. With my left leg, it's a little bit weaker than my right, and it all comes from, you know, the spine, basically, and the stenosis that's going on there. But my question is, are you recommending that the REMS test is better, or as being more thorough, but it has to be done more often?
Okay, so the answer to the first question is the REMS test is definitely a better test for a few reasons. Number one, you're getting two measurements, not just your bone density, but you're also getting your bone quality. So that's the fragility score. Okay, so these are two measurements that you get that you cannot get with the REMS. Number two reason is that the variability from machine to machine, operator to operator, almost negligible. It is not going to have that, wider range of variability that the DEXA has. And number three, there's zero radiation. So when you talk about somebody who's getting it every single year or needed to have it, the four reasons, getting it every year, you would want to have something that's, less invasive if possible. And number four, the actual test is an ultrasound test. So it is something that is going to give you a better picture of your overall bone strength, which is what we ultimately care about. What is your risk of fracture?
I'm going in for my appointment in August. Now I
Okay.
know they want to do the DEXA.
Okay.
I have to get permission for it for Medicare. I'm I'm in my late 70s.
Yep.
My mother had osteoporosis and that issue. So I'm kind of genetically prone to this. But if I go and I have another DEXA,
Yep.
and so I would have to go someplace else possibly to find out where they do a REM.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you for bringing that up. I will address that in more detail, but okay, so let me just talk about it now. So the REMS test is not widely available currently in the United States. Okay, there's probably about, I want to say 15 to 20 tests nationwide. So when I say test, these devices, okay? However, there are actually two REMS tests in New Jersey, one of which is at an OsteoStrong Center in New Jersey. Now, I talked to the owner at the OsteoStrong Center there and I said, my members are not looking to go out to Jersey to go and get this test done. So you have to come here to us. So basically what we're doing is we are hosting at our OsteoStrong centers in New York City for our members, for our non-members, anybody that wants to take this test. You can go to the Upper West Side, you can go to, that's my location, you can go to the Park Avenue location. Either way, you will be able to get the REMS test done. There are some other locations also in Long Island as well, but I think mostly everybody here is from the city.
Is it covered by insurance?
It is not covered by insurance currently. However, you can submit for reimbursement. We do have some letters and forms for that, so you can make that request and we can go through that in a little more detail with you.
Question.
Rosie's had her hand up. Go ahead, Rosie, please.
Sorry.
My question is, number one, is it meds that you have to take to enhance the quality to get it better? And number two, I thought that it was more of sort of a nutrition feeding that you can do, like a holistic care that you can do to fix this. But if it's not, then maybe this isn't for me. I would love to know my numbers, but as far as the completion of the transitions, I won't be able to do it because I am limited to what type of meds I can take. So is it that you have to take these meds to clear up the damage that could be there, or is it another way of changing your eating habits?
Okay. So let me make sure that I'm making a distinction here for everybody. One is the test itself. So this is DEXA versus REMS. Okay. So that's just to give you a diagnostic test of understanding your bone strength, your overall bone health. Okay. Then the second question is, okay, now that I know what my overall bone health is, what is the treatment plan, right? Like what is the protocol that I can take to do this? Okay. You have a few options available to you. there is something called Wolff's Law. This is what I started to talk about earlier. So Wolff's Law is innate within all of us. And what it says is that when a force exerts itself on the bone, and I'm like, think of the bone being, you know, this large axial loading of the bone. So this is the length of the bone. As I compress that bone, it signals to the brain to increase bone strength. Why does it do that? Because if I were to try to lift up a table, if all of you want to take this, like do this little exercise, take your finger, press it onto the table or chair that's right next to you, and try to break the bone that's in your finger. You won't be able to do it. Anybody know why?
Because the bones are strong in your fingers.
You are much stronger than these little tiny little puny bones in here. You definitely have the strength to break those little bones, but why can you not do it?
Your brain don't tell you. It's
That's
not.
it. Very good.
The
Your
brain can't.
nervous system, yes, your
Yeah.
nervous system will shut you down. If I tried to pick up a heavy table and it was so heavy that my bone would snap if I tried to pick it up, it's not that I don't have the strength necessarily, it's just that my nervous system is going to shut it down so that I don't break my bones, okay? Similarly, when you put a stimulus in a safe way to increase your bone, to compress the bones, did you know, by the way, that your bones are compressible? Some people don't actually realize this. People think that it's just a rigid structure. It actually is the most beautifully designed structure in nature. It is stronger than steel, and yet it can be compressed. And why is that so important? Like, imagine if you were jumping or running or doing all these things and your bones didn't compress, they would just break, right? Because they can't take that kind of force without some kind of give. So what we do at our center is we give that external stimulus through our machines. And these are proprietary machines. They look just like the machines you see in a gym. It looks like a chest press, leg press, things like that. And you are in full control at all times. And what you're doing is you're pressing against the levers and exerting a force which goes back into the bones and triggers to the brain to increase bone density. And what we have found is that by doing this, we are able to help people who have osteopenia, osteoporosis, start to increase the rate of their bone strength increasing to the point where they no longer have osteopenia and osteoporosis. Okay, so that is one option that is absolutely available to you depending on your health, and we'll get into some of the other, contraindications later. But we would do a full health history with you, make sure that you've been cleared to use the machines by your doctor and so on and so forth. But given all of that, you would have no problem doing this. Second thing, nutrition is extremely important. I can do all I want to increase the stimulation to your bones, but if you don't have the basic nutritional components, my body needs protein to build that bone. Remember what our bones are made of, right? Protein, collagen, and calcium phosphate. So you need to give your body those things. People are surprised how much protein that we actually need in our bodies. If you take your weight, so let's say it's 120 pounds, okay? You need to consume 120 grams of protein in a day in order to be able to increase your bone density and increase all the processes that happen through protein. Now, that's not obviously possible always through diet alone, so that's why I highly recommend a supplement. So protein powders, things like that, but that's a different conversation and we can get into that in a little more detail later. And the second piece is the calcium, right? Calcium phosphate. The correct form of calcium matters. You won't believe this. I had a chiropractic doctor in my center the other day, and one of the things he said was the patient that they were observing, taking an x-ray, took a calcium pill, which, by the way, if it's not in the correct form, is like chalk. You swallow that, it will go right through your entire digestive system, completely undigested. And they observed this on the x-ray machine. Every couple of hours, they were taking an x-ray to see where that pill was. None of it got broken down. So it is very, very important that you're taking the right form of calcium as well. So there's a few things that we can talk about around all of that. And the third major factor when we talk about overall bone strength is your hormones. Even if we do all of those things, if your hormones are a little bit off or something's going on there, we may need to do some correction around that or some supplementation around that. Those are probably the three biggest factors. There are other ones, of course, you know, if you're a heavy drinker, heavy smoker, if you have other, you know, GI type of issues, gastrointestinal, so maybe you're not able to absorb as much of the vitamins and minerals that you need, and so on and so forth. There could be a number of reasons like that. But, you know, I want to give you like the three main things, and those are the three main things that you can do to help your bone health overall. Okay. So let me go back to the questions here. Okay. So on another platform, then the T-score is comparing me to all people who have a DEXA, taken a DEXA, Z-score is told. Okay. So T-score, when you get a DEXA, think of a standard deviation. A standard deviation means in the center is the most common. So this is going to be, usually it's a woman of 30 years old. I think it's typically Caucasian, but I do think sometimes they do it by race. It depends. And then when you're 1.5 standard deviations away, think of a bell curve. That tells you that you're within a normal range. So T-score is comparing you to a person who is 30 years old. Z-score is comparing you to someone of your own age. That's the difference, okay? It's not quite as helpful just because it's, you know, we don't really want to see, I mean, you're going to probably be on par with most people your age. Really, the biggest reason why you would look at that is to just kind of understand if there's something else going, not going well, you know, in your health. So doctors can get into more of that with you in more detail, but that's really what the Z-score is helping them to understand. Okay, if you lose 10% bone mass per year, is that normal? So there is a normal decline, as I said, of your bone mass, bone density every year. Remember what we were talking about, right? There's a few factors involved. What is the bone strength? So this is going to be a retraining, guys, of all of our minds, because we've been taught to just focus on bone density, bone density. The truth is we need to focus on bone strength overall, right? Bone mass, bone quality and bone density together. So when we say, is it declining? I just don't have enough information. I would say that any kind of decline, I'm like, let's try to get it so it doesn't decline, because it doesn't need to, you know? That's the big thing that we haven't always been told, that there is a way, and there is. So that's one of the biggest differences, I would say. But I would be concerned in terms of at least looking into what are some of the things I can do to help, because think of it as a bank account. It keeps getting depleted, depleted, depleted. You know, now all of a sudden we get into a range where it's not going to be very viable to do a lot of the activities that you would love to do in your life. Does that matter for REMS? Okay, so I think I answered the question about REMS. Same, different machines, different operators. You're going to get very little variability between machines and operators. So that's why it's such a superior test. Multifaceted, whereas DEX is one-dimensional. Good. REMS. Okay, we talked about insurance. I'm not sure if I've ever asked you those. Just wondering if. Okay. Yeah, so I can share my story. So I was diagnosed with osteopenia at the young age of 42. And that is quite young because I'm not even in menopause yet. And it was quite a surprise because I feel very strong, I feel very healthy, and I just felt like there was something missing there. But the DEXA was the only test that I had to go by. So I had done that test only because of OsteoStrong, because I am the owner here. So I wanted to baseline myself and just see what that would look like after I've used the machines here. And what I can tell you I've found is that my bone density has stayed level. It has not decreased, which, by the way, is a gain. Because if you're on a downward trajectory and now all of a sudden we stabilize it, that's a gain, right? So just keep that in mind also, because sometimes we miss that. So I was able to stabilize my bone density, but I still felt like I didn't know, I was still being diagnosed with osteopenia. And it was almost getting to the point where some measurements were osteoporosis. When I got my REMS test done, I was elated because my fragility score was 12.1 and 24 in my spine. So it is indication that my bone strength overall is excellent. I have almost no risk of a fracture in the next 5 years. The bone quality is so good that I can now sort of, relax, and I'm not on edge in terms of, do I need to do more and what else is going on? Of course, I'm going to continue to supplement with nutrition and all the things, but this is why the REMS test is so helpful, to help you to diagnose what it is that you want to do in terms of your course of treatment. Okay, I think I answered all the questions that were in the chat, so tell me if you guys have more. I'm going to continue a couple other things that I want to tell you about. So I spoke about, so real fast, just so you know, the general steps. When you come in for your REMS test, you're going to be laying on a table, just like a massage table, no big deal. And there's an ultrasound wand, so similar to, like, when you do a pregnancy test, they're checking the belly, it's like just a wand. So it goes over your belly, and you're going to go straight down in the center, and that's going to test your spine. And then we're also going to do it in the groin area, where we can get the top of the hip bone. And what we're doing is we're doing an echo analysis. So as the ultrasound waves travel through the bone, they encounter various tissues, interfaces with the bone structure, etc. And it's basically echoing back differently based on the density and composition of the bone, right? So from there, we're looking at the data collection. So we're analyzing it against others that have been collected, and then we present the results. So the test will give you your result right away, and this is given to you through the computer software and everything that they're doing to do that. The biggest thing to remember is the fragility score. That is the one big measurement that the REMS test does very well. That is a strong predictor of correlated predictor based on studies that show whether or not you will have a fracture. So that was probably the biggest things that I wanted to convey. Please go ahead. I open it up to questions again.
Yeah, it's Lori K again. Yeah, I have made an appointment. I probably will get the DEXA test in August, probably, when I get my mammogram. It goes immediately to my radiologist, and basically the way he leans is to put me on medication. I have been in touch with the OsteoStrong people as to coming in and looking at the machines and whatever. Is it a requirement that you get the REMS test before you actually start working on the machines, or
No, not at all. No.
but it would be,
OsteoStrong has been around for 10 plus years, and we didn't have REMS until very recently, so no problem.
so, but I don't think I would discuss it with the rheumatologist,
Sure.
basically, in terms of, but he hasn't really pushed me, whereas the dentist is pushing me the other way. So I'm kind of at a loss as to.
Here's what I would do, Lori. I would say, let's sit down, let's do a consultation, just answer any of your questions. You can take a look, you can understand what is available to you, and absolutely consult your physicians and do whatever you think is best for you. Absolutely. But this way you have all the information, so you can make an assessment. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to help. Just to give you all a sense, there is almost 200 OsteoStrong centers around the world. 197, I believe, is the most recent number. And there's been over 11 million OsteoStrong sessions that have been completed. So we have massive amounts of data. There was also a study that was done in Greece, and one of the top 250 researchers in the world was part of that study. He's one of the most cited in the world. And he himself was very impressed that the study definitively showed that using the OsteoStrong machines does indeed increase the blood biomarkers and the other indications that your bone strength increases. So if that helps, we're happy to share more information around that. But just to give you the larger context of what this is, and it's really very basic. I mean, all we're doing is tapping into what your body already has. We're not giving any medications. We're not doing any of that kind of stuff. There's no, side effects or any of that kind of thing. So, so that's it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so let me get into the details, and we're going to be ending our webinar pretty soon. The cost of the REMS test is $350 for one spine and one hip, $400 for two hips and one spine. If you are not a member, then it'll just be slightly more than that. It'll be the $50 more for each. If you decide to join as a member, then we'll just give you the member price. The test is given once a month approximately in our center. So we have actually our next REMS date is tomorrow. And then following that will be August 23rd, I believe. So we'll circulate that information very soon after tomorrow is done. So you can sign up for either one. Let's see. I'm so excited. Very small. Thank you, Maura. It's a new modality. Right. So insurance is just starting to cover it. It's not covered. So what you would do is you would pay out of pocket and then you would submit for reimbursement to your insurance company. So the machines. Okay. So for those of you asking about these machines, let me show you. Unblur this. Okay. So if you see here, this is our, what we call upper growth trigger. And what happens is you're going to come here and you're going to push against this bar. And if you can kind of see the screen, it's measuring how much force is being exerted onto the machine. Okay, so you have live biofeedback as you're using the machines. You will never be on these machines by yourself. There will be a session coach that's with you the entire time. You will only be doing one circuit of the entire machines. So you will go onto each machine for pushing for about 60 to 120 seconds. So we're talking about 1 to 2 minutes max, not even. And basically what you're doing is you're exerting force. Now, here's the biggest difference. This looks like a leg press machine that you would see in a gym, okay? But the biggest difference is that you see this plate here. There's no preloaded weights on that plate. This is kind of similar to a scale where you're stepping on the scale and you're exerting force, and the machine is just measuring how much force you're exerting. And that's why we can get the bone compression and the multiples of body weight that you cannot replicate in a gym. In order to trigger to your brain to increase bone density, we need to be able to create multiples of body weight. So just to give you a sense, on this machine, the lower growth trigger, so this is working on your legs, your femur, anything in lower body, I am able to exert 1,400 pounds of force on this machine. Now, does that mean that I can actually push 1,400 pounds? No, I can't go to a gym and exert 1,400 pounds. It's basically measuring how much force that I'm exerting. And that is 14 multiples of my body weight, almost. So that's why I have very good bone strength. Okay, so that's the machines. And then there's other modalities here as well. So that's helped to support that. We have a vibration plate, which helps to prime the nervous system to get ready for the load that's being exerted on the machines. So, okay. All right. So, any other questions that I can answer?
Yes, Lori again. I could, since I'd never heard from the Upper West Side location, do you have a number for?
And Lori, don't worry, I'm gonna reach out to you personally and make sure that you get taken care of. Here's the link in the chat for anybody that wants to make an appointment. You just click on this and then you will be given a opportunity to book a appointment for specifically for REMS. But if you need to do something for just a regular first appointment, we'll contact you for that as well. So I got you, Lori, so don't worry.
Okay.
Maura, you have your hand raised.
Hi, sorry that I'm off cam. I had a question, which is a rhetorical question, because I think I know the answer, but
Okay.
it's very interesting. For some reason, the last couple of DEXA scans that I was going for, they ended up not working out, and I know it's because I was meant to come and do this instead, and I'm really excited. But what I found fascinating was, actually, it was 3 different places, because my insurance, this one was this, then it was that. Out of all of them, only one of them said to me, by the way, within 36 hours before your visit, don't have any calcium supplements, don't drink anything that, like calcium enriched orange juice, whatever. I'm assuming that this doesn't matter because it's an ultrasound, right?
Wow, very good assessment. That's exactly correct. The only thing that we ask is that you don't eat or drink anything for about 2 to 3 hours prior, only because of gas. Because if there's gas bubbles, then it makes it harder for us to be able to get to the bone, to be able to see the bone through the wand. So yeah.
That's great. And I also just wanted to let you know that I actually found out about all of you and the team at the Upper West Side, which is the only place I've been to, is just amazing. And you have, a few years back, you had a client named Karen Radkowski.
Yes.
And she has been, for years, been telling everybody, shouting you out. And I just wanted you to know that. And I actually was afraid to book my appointment. And I'm really feeling very, very excited and supported now. And I just wanted to thank you all for that.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that means the world to me. Thank you so much, Maura. I love Karen. She is such a gem. And I'm really glad that we can make you feel safe and confident. So yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Question.
Yes.
Is it a free consultation?
Yes.
Or do you, so what are the fee, what are you paying for when it's time after the consultation? Are you paying for the scan, or are you paying for the x-rays, or whatever you're doing? Are you, is that a payment out of your pocket?
Got it. Great question. So I want to make sure that we separate the two. One is just the diagnostic test. That's going to be the REMS test that we've been speaking about.
That's free.
Yep. No, so the first consultation, when I say consultation, that means that if you want to speak with us to understand if OsteoStrong is a good option for you and what the treatment is for low bone density or any other health concerns around, bone strength, you don't even have to have osteopenia and osteoporosis. We have some members here who come in and they just want to do it preventatively and they want to strengthen their bodies because it's the musculoskeletal system overall. So your muscles will get stronger as well, which is very, very important as we age as well. So the consultation to talk to us about all of that, go through your medical records, understand if you're a candidate, and also sometimes even try the machines, things like that, that can all be done for free. The REMS diagnostic test is $350 or $400, depending if you're a member. And that is going to be set up, that's once a month, that's given. Once you have that diagnostic test and you have some understanding of your bone health, now you're looking for what is my course of action, right? So one could be pharmaceuticals, but if you are looking for an alternative to pharmaceuticals that you would like to try, and again, please, I want to be very clear, I'm not knocking it. I do think that there's a lot that unfortunately has been talked about with it, that hasn't been talked about with it. I just don't think that there's enough that we are given as far as information to know that there's alternatives out there. So this is your opportunity to say, okay, I want to explore something else and see if this could work for me. And that's what OsteoStrong is. It's a monthly membership. You come in once a week. You will not sweat because you're on these machines for literally 1 minute each. We are able to get people in and out of their sessions within 10 minutes, if you wish. So we end up taking a little bit more because we like to chat with our clients and talk to everybody, and you guys want to meet each other and all the good things. Speaking of the vibration plate, the reason why we do that is because it gets your body, your nervous system primed for the machines, and then you go back onto the vibration plate because we want to work on balance. We want to work on brain games, okay? So that we can get your nervous system, if you're think about it, like if you're walking on the ground, there's only so many muscles you need to engage to be able to walk on a flat surface. When you're on a vibration plate, you're purposely being knocked off of your center so that you can now engage other muscles. And these are used by professional athletes and everything. By the way, this whole system has been endorsed by professional athletes. So we have the NFL and the PGA that have both endorsed OsteoStrong. So it's a very, very effective system, whether you're, aging and looking at your bone health, or whether you're looking at performance athletics or something in between. So that's really what the OsteoStrong sessions are about. And so with that, you can just contact our team and we will be glad to help you to set up an appointment. And I will give you guys the phone number for that as well, so you can ask and come in and ask any questions. Okay, does that clarify, Rosie?
What is
yeah,
your
I got it. I would have to come in and just get a little more. But thank you anyway, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you sharing that with us.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Okay, have a good night.
You too.
Would you put the phone number up again?
Yep, you got it. I just put it into the chat. It's right there for you.
I don't see it. Can you?
Nope. Yep, absolutely. I'll tell you. Ready? 914-690-7190. 914-690-7190. Okay, great question on the results. Give me 1 second, Roberta, I will answer that. Maura, you had a quick thought?
Yeah, sorry. So, you're too young happily to know about this, but back in the day, a lot of us older ladies know, if you went to the doctor and you told them you weren't feeling great, they just automatically gave people, tranquil, whatever. And what's been happening now is that when we go to the doctor and we have some bone density issues, they just automatically, it's drugs, there you go. So I was wondering if you would be so kind as to talk a bit about all the beautiful add-ons that you have if you take the different levels, because in the same respect that a lot of these beautiful ladies here with me may not have known about the REMS, they may not understand the benefit of all of these other beautiful additions as well. So I thought that might be something really helpful too.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Maura. There's what we call modalities here at the center as well. So in addition to using the OsteoStrong machines, we have compression boots, which apparently is the fan favorite. I have heard things like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm walking on clouds after I use this. I have heard people just feel a lot of relief. So it's basically compressing your legs and helping with your circulation and muscle and relaxation and circulation. There's also red light therapy, which is very good for skin rejuvenation. Also helps with pain and muscular aches. So I've had literally people come into the center with back pain, for example, lower back pain, have the red light on the back for about 15 to 20 minutes, and they have found a noticeable difference just from doing that. And then we have a third device called the biocharger, and this is my my favorite, because I have a beautiful story around this and how it helped me with my allergies. And I no longer am allergic because of this machine. So everything is all natural. There's nothing that we're doing, you know, here that is any medications. We're not a medical facility. We're just here to hack into your body's natural potential. Your cells have all the knowledge they need to stay healthy, and we're just giving it what it needs in terms of power, energy, and stimulation. Yes, red light is very good for the mitochondria in your cells. Very good, thank you. So, Lima, if you could please make an appointment with us, and I will go through your specific scenario with you. So let's see. Let me make sure I got everybody's questions. Everybody understood, because vibe plate can help with bone density. I would say there's a whole YouTube video that Dr. Doug Lucas has done on the vibration plate and how it relates to bone density. So if you're interested in that, who is that? Janie, we can send that over to you, and then you can watch he goes through it in a lot of detail, and he in fact references studies and other things to compare the different types of vibration plates as well. So we have obviously professional grade in our center, which is a little bit better than the home stuff that you can get, but still any vibe plate is still better. Let's see. Okay, interpretation of the results. So guys, this is a very, very new test, okay? Doctors don't even all know about this test. It is still being taught, learned about, all the things. We are currently in the process of doing a special training for medical practitioners to be able to understand the results and how to interpret them and read them and so on. We will, of course, help you to understand, you know, the basics about your REMS report. We always, of course, want you to consult your physician to, you know, for anything that's particular to you, but we can absolutely guide you through overall, you know, how to understand your REMS test and what it means for you. Roberta, I love you. I know, holistic practitioner, you have to deal with doctors on a regular basis. I get it. Okay, and yes, you could do both. You'll deal with DEXA and REMS. Sounds good. Hold on one sec. This has been very okay. Thank you so much. Is there a place? Okay, weighted vests. We don't really deal too much with weighted vests, but absolutely, I have a chiropractic doctor that highly recommends doing a weighted vest. So that is very good for you when you're walking. Memberships range depending on what you're looking for. So it could be anywhere from around $270 a month ish up to $300, and then a full, you know, unlimited, I'm sorry, we call it a 12-month program. So we'll go through all of those with you when you come and talk to us. Oh, sorry. I think I answered everybody's questions. I know we're just over time, so I want to be respectful. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else real quick before we jump off?
I just want to say that Tom is amazing and he's just the sweetest young man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I agree. If for those of you who don't know Tom, he's our center manager here. He is from England, so we gave him a little bit of a fun ribbing, you know, with July 4th weekend. But he's been with us for years and he is extraordinary. So thank you for saying that. Yes, much loved. All right, excellent. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. You're so welcome. And this recording will be available to all of you, and we will send it out as soon as we get this all situated. All right. Thank you. Good night.